Hello everyone, my name is Dhio Bastian and today I'm going to be talking about depression and with the focus on is depression still a major problem? For the purpose of this presentation, the term depression, according to APA, the American Psychiatric Association, can be defined as a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. This presentation will argue that depression is still a crucial issue experienced by society. And I'd like to begin by referring to Salcedo, who stated that that depression is the leading cause of disability in the United States among people aging from 15 to 44 years old. In addition to that, World Health Organization has also claimed that the total number of people in the world living with depression is 322 million. Nearly half of these people live in the Southeast Asian region and the Western Pacific region. The three main arguments to be presented in favor of my presentation are the effects of depression, then the causes and symptoms of depression, and finally the treatments to depression. Moving on to the first main argument, the effects of depression, I would like to talk about role impairment, in which, as described by Kessler, the number of people who are suffering from depression, or also known as major depressive disorder, for a whole lifetime is 16.2% or 35.1 million US adults. And for the people who are suffering from yearly depression, it was calculated up to 6.6% or 14.2 million US adults. And moreover, Lapine and Riley has also supported the idea that the National Comorbidity Survey replication has found that taking into account both absenteeism and presenteeism, it estimates over 27 working days per year were lost per depressed employee. This results into an annual individual loss of $4,400, and at the national level, it can be translated into a loss of $36.6 billion US dollars a year in the United States. And all these statistics can be seen by the table given in the presentation. Moving on to the next main point, memory performances. It is also stated that by Kitzelbash, Van der Kolk, and Curtis that memory performances are affected because of depression, and thus comes family burdens, which is stated by Lapine and Riley, that because of these underperformances and which resulted in a decrease in income due to the disabilities of not being able to go to work, it has caused marital problems, which can cause separation or burdens to the family. Such things can be that the patient's partner would have to work an excess amount, or that the patient would have to use up their savings in order to cover up the expenses for the treatments. Finally, Rubin and Kopian stated that, has also explained that that these problems can cause a social withdrawal to 10% of all the patients, which makes their depression worse. The next argument is the causes and symptoms of depression. Now, moving on to the first causes, which is stated by Gay, Kotor, Lertle, and Lee, that most people who suffer from HIV or AIDS most people who suffer from HIV or AIDS, according to Gay, Kotor, Lertle, and Lee, have also been affected by major depressive disorders. These are due to them not being able to get medical adherence or like good medical treatments and the reduction in quality of life, as several adults and hospitals are unable to pay off the expenses needed for proper treatments. Next, Beck and Alford has mentioned that poverty plays a huge role in causing depression. And in addition to that, Fink, Santaella, Tenorio, and Keyes has also pointed out that depression, that suicides of close friends and relatives can cause other people to get depressed or even suicidal. For example, the suicide of Robin Williams at August 2014 has caused a massive 13% spike when it happened, and thus this statistics can be proven. Moving on to the symptoms of depression, there are 5 symptoms stated by Beck and Alford in his book. In his book, Depression, Causes and Treatments. These symptoms are split into 2 different parts: the mental cognitive symptoms and the physical symptoms. For the mental cognitive symptoms, the first one is dejected moods. And in these cases, the patients would feel extremely low and down. And in severe cases, most of them would feel sad endlessly and are unable to snap out of it. Secondly comes withdrawal wishes, in which are when the patients want to have in which the patients would want to escape into an activity that provides relaxation or refuge. And in severe cases, these patients would want to escape from their lives as they view it as an intolerable situation. The third one is the paralysis of will, and it relates to laziness. Mostly these patients would have no willpower to move, and in some rare cases, the patients would not even be able to summon the willpower to do anything. Moving on to the physical symptoms, which are only 2 points. It has, the first one is sleep disturbances. And in sleep disturbances, people are unable to sleep, but in some grave conditions, there are some patients who have the fear of sleeping. And lastly, fatigability is the sudden lack of energy by patients. Most patients would say that they feel they get tired way faster. And in some harsh cases, there are patients who does not have any energy at all to move or do anything, and thus are most likely to be bedridden. To the final argument of this presentation, the treatments to depression, also according to Beck and Alford, that the treatments are currently under heavy researching in order to acquire the most efficient methods and treatments for people. Currently, nevertheless, the first 2 points, reassurance and environmental change, can lighten up the negativity surrounding the patient's mindset. Reassurance is a method to give confidence and hope to these patients. And one way to do it is to keep motivating keep motivating the patients by telling them that their medication is highly successful and that their depression is not that severe. Environmental change is to move the patient into a more relaxed area. The next point, interpersonal therapy, is used when the depression of the patient is extremely harsh, and mostly this method is used to aid the deficits of their social competence, like when they're facing grief, bullying, and anxiety, and others. Thus, for interpersonal therapy, there is a psychiatrist who helps in explaining what to do, when to do it, and how to fight with their problems. Next is pharmacotherapy. Pharmacotherapy is a form of treatment by giving medication to patients. And these ones, and pharmacotherapy is highly recognized in many researching and hospitals. However, when the patient gets too addicted, or when the patient gets too severe in their depression, they would take more doses than they were actually told to, and this would cause an overdose, causing them to harm their own body. Lastly is the placebo effect. The placebo effect is when there are dozens of patients, and that some of them are given the real medication, and some of them are given a fake. And in these case scenarios, 59% of the 77 respondents actually thought that they were successful. However, the medication which were given to them were actually just plain water. But the placebo effect is when you compare a placebo effect to other types of treatments, the cost and the time taken to enact the placebo effect than others are actually cheaper and less time and way less time usage. Thus, it's a method which I think would be very useful in many hospitals to try it out first, rather than to just leave it by. In conclusion, depression is still a major problem by society. This can be seen by examining three main points here, three main arguments in which there are excess amounts of problems caused by the depression, and then there is the growing number of suicides and depression rates, and finally that the treatments to depression are still too inefficient or still too vague. And thus I would conclude that depression is still a major problem faced by society. These are the references used for my presentation. Now we move on to the discussion questions. For the first question, do you believe that depression will be a rising issue in the future, and how?
I believe that depression will not be rising issue in the future, because in the future there will be a better medication and technology for depression, and I think that people who suffer depression now will have a better medication in the future.
believe that depression will be a rising issue in the future because in the future there will be more pressure and people have to like perform better in order to survive, like better in what they do. Therefore, they will be depressed because of the increased competition in the future.
I would agree with what Edwin said, and thus that mostly depression is still going to be a major issue in the future and currently, and in the current situation. The second question, should the government provide more aid to researchers regarding depression?
I think the government should provide more aid to researchers regarding depression because, like you said, if like depression may affect the way you work and everything, it might be bad for the U.S. economy, might be bad for the economy in general, because like we will have like underperforming labor, and there are more and more people who's performing suicide due to depression in their internal or external factors. So yeah, I think they should make more researches to prevent depression from becoming an issue in the future. Anyway, just
I think the government should provide more aid to researchers regarding to depression because, like you mentioned just now, if one person is depressed or if the person commits suicide, it can affect others in his environment, right? Therefore, if the government doesn't quickly solve the issue of depression, more and more of the population will suffer from depression.
I would like to add more that the government, that most people and mostly the government are actually unaware of the rising surge in depression. And thus, like what I had stated before, in the whole world, there's actually 322 million, like a lot of people who are suffering from depression. And thus, it is really urgent that the government should provide more aid to help cure depression. The third question is, what actions must be taken to prevent depression?
I think the media should also take a role to create an awareness about depression, as depression is a real issue. And if there is no awareness made within the government or the society to show that depression can actually cause death through suicide, the actions made must be used to prevent depression from occurring to everyone.
I think the action that must be taken to prevent depression is to increase the accessibility, like for rehab or for medication, because when a person is depressed, he will most likely to bottle it up himself and bear all the pain himself. However, if all the faculties is accessible, he'll be more willing to try or to try to get medicated and treat his depression.
I would like to add one point that since depression is actually everywhere, and that most people are unaware of it, and we actually cannot count the real statistics for people who are suffering from depression, it should be known that since there can be people who are depressed everywhere and anywhere at any time, we should be aware of some symptoms and some effects of the depression. So if we see anybody who are depressed or suffering from any type of social withdrawal, we should always come to help. There is a website called AADA, which is a very famous website in which they help in when you're depressed or anything. They would give solutions and they would give a hotline for you to call, and which really helps for those who are suffering from severe depression. The fourth question is, do you think that depression is transmittable? By transmittable, I mean since suicides are quite contagious on impulse, and that since when a close member or when a relative has suicided, it would cause others to feel depressed or even suicidal. But is depression contagious like suicides?
I think depression is transmittable because, as you said before, it can affect family members, friends. So, because one of the effects of depression is to cause poor social relations, like if someone is depressed, they may unleash their depression to other people. Maybe they unleash their anger, their sadness, or they may refuse to speak to other people. This can cause the people surrounding them to feel lonely, or they try to help but they feel like they can't. It can actually create more depression.
I think depression is transmittable as, for example, a person in an office or a worker is spreading negative vibes. It can affect the environment or the atmosphere in the room that can spread to everyone to feel a bit negative.
However, I think depression may not be transmittable to other people because if they have a strong mentality, then they wouldn't let what others feel affect them. Like if some people are more swayed by others, so that if others is happy, he will be also happy. But if the person is strong mentally, he would be able to feel what he feels regardless of what other people feels.
I think it's a matter of how you are raised and how you cope with different surroundings and issues. So I don't think depression is actually transmittable. It's just a matter of how you react towards certain things. And if you feel like you're depressed about something, I think it's better if you talk about it. I know it's very hard to talk about it, but you must have a friend that can actually talk to, or actually your parents or something like that.
I think that depression affects the way someone acts, and a person's action can affect another person's